Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if one of you has their moon in Libra and the other has their moon in Pisces. Libra and Pisces form what is known as an inconjunction, meaning that they are 150 degrees apart. This is considered an awkward angle, and it deals with the two elements that are involved. And the elements that combine with these contacts of inconjunctions are considered weird combinations. So there can be any um, number of elements that fit this bill, like for instance, fire and earth. My sun is in Sagittarius and my rising sign is Taurus, and they are within a certain degree span or orb, and it's considered an inconjunction. It means it's very weird. Now, in that particular combination, I think that there is a lot to be said for, no common ground. In this case, with this inconjunction, I think that there is some common ground. So I disagree with that premise that inconjunctions are not common ground. But when we look at the elements that are involved with this moon sign interaction, we have somebody who is an air sign and somebody who is a water sign. And the moon position is all about your emotional nature. So, if you know a little bit about astrology, you may get the gist of what I'm about to say with this dynamic here. Before I, kind of go into that, I just want to make it clear that there are many influences in the chart. Not only the sun sign, which is super important, and you have to look at that other person's sun sign, but also the position of these planets in different houses. That can be huge. You may be very. I actually had somebody who was listening to one of my YouTube videos, and I mentioned about Aries being so loud and extroverted, and they said it's so weird. I keep hearing about this, and I'm not like that. And I said, well, maybe your sun is in the 12th house. I did a private reading for that person. Bam, totally true. So you have to realize that these other factors are going to color what I'm saying, and you can't take this as the ultimate truth. And another thing to realize as well is that if you are in a relationship with someone and you feel like you are really present and you understand what's going on and that you're not deluding yourself, that you're really contributing to the dysfunction of the relationship, don't try to use astrology as a cosmic loophole, because you can always find compatible elements in two charts, but that doesn't mean you should stay together with somebody that you have a lot of discord with. That is really a toxic relationship. If you just keep fighting with that person, you don't seem to get along, that person doesn't respect you, they may be cheating on you, they may have addiction issues, all of those things. You know, being in a relationship is supposed to be enhancing, life enhancing for both parties. So please keep that in mind. You don't want to be involved in something that is just dragging you down. If you feel that your relationship is worth saving and you are just looking for some clarity because you feel like you don't understand this other individual, I do have relationship readings, love readings, that where I look at each of your charts individually, not using synastry as is typically used, where one chart is on top of the other. You can find out about my services at the link below. Um, and so, anyway, going back to what we're talking about here, what I feel is the main thing that these two signs are about is a romantic view on life. And this also extends to a love of art. And even, we could say creativity. Why is this important? Well, as somebody who is in this camp and neither one of those signs or moon signs, I can say that finding a partner who is like this, and I'm into men, so I have a partner who would rather read poetry than watch a ball game. Nothing wrong with ball games, but I'm not into that. And so I we have that in common. So it's something that is, I don't think, really thought about too much, but that compatibility as it pertains to interests. And artistic appreciation, maybe involvement in the arts, if one or both of you are into singing or instruments, playing music, you're a musician, you're into the fine arts, whatever it is. Maybe one of you is in one thing and one is in the other, but you inspire each other. That's fantastic. In some cases, you may have made this your career. And even if it hasn't taken off yet, you can have that cheerleader for you, and that is wonderful. But that romantic approach to life, where you see the beauty in things, that's the Libra, but with Pisces, there's that spiritual idealism. As a matter of fact, Neptune is the higher octave of Venus. And there's a connection between Neptune and Venus in the sense that Venus is exalted in Pisces, which is ruled by Neptune. So that means that it's at its highest expression. And Venus can be what we desire, but it's also how we love. And a person who has Venus in Pisces tends to love unconditionally. And so, and obviously you probably know that Venus is the ruler of Libra. So there you go. This is very deep, okay? The other thing that I think these two signs share in common is a desire to be kind. Now, this is about not wanting to hurt other people. People who have a prominent Pisces would rather be hurt than to hurt somebody else. And I can attest to this, not just with the moon, but with other inner planets. And I, pull my hair out when I have to deal with this, because I'm trying to explain that the individual with this influence, they matter too. You cannot sacrifice yourself for somebody else, because to me, at the highest level, Neptune is all about realizing that we're all one. Well, guess what? You are one of the ones. So it's not like excluding yourself from that equation. You're part of that. So you have to honor the self as well. You can't give to somebody else and then you're left wanting. And because it's not sustainable and it's not respectful to the self. It's not an example of self-love. So in any case, this is where it gets problematic because both of these signs tend to be people pleasers. So remember, this is the moon position. So this is going to show up with the emotional nature, being very sensitive to the other person's needs and wanting to accommodate them. And yet, maybe sometimes feeling like they are getting the short end of the stick. What happens when people feel like they're getting the short end of the stick, even though they are volunteering to give to the other person? They become resentful because they're not, perfect gods. They're human beings, spiritual beings having a human experience, let's put it that way. And so it's only normal to feel kind of resentful if you feel like you're giving to another person, but it's somehow depleting you or putting you at an inconvenience in some way. By the way, I suddenly found out that I'm in a flight pattern where the planes decide to go over my head every minute. So I've been pausing every, 30 seconds or even less than a minute. So suffice it to say, this is getting a little old. So I think I'm going to just continue. So I apologize if you can hear planes going overhead. But this is the bottom line. This is tough love when it comes to this issue. The reason that you're resentful is because you are giving away your power. You think that somebody made you do something because they put you in that position by asking something of you. And that is not true. That is the victim mentality. I would say Pisces in particular, the person with the moon in Pisces suffers from this even more than the Libra person. And you have to, whoever it is that is thinking these thoughts has to kind of bitch slap themselves mentally and say, no, I'm doing this to myself because I need to grow a set and learn how to say no in a very nice way. And that's, it's not any sexier than that. It's point blank. So learning to say no is crucial for this combination because you're going to people please each other, not hopefully not to death, but to a point where one of you loses it and just is like, hell to the no, I'm not doing this. But see, that's the problem, is that sometimes people can only assert themselves when they're angry. I've seen this with Mars and Pisces, and it's ridiculous. Don't try to be a saint. Don't try to be a hero. Don't try to be what somebody else wants you to be. Be honest about your emotions. If you're angry, both of these signs probably have great discomfort in expressing anger. In order to have a healthy relationship, you have to know how to express when the other person has disappointed you, hurt you, pissed you off. And yet you have to do so in a way that is not like flipping out, which is very intimidating to another person. And sometimes that intimidation is actually a manipulation. It's trying to, keep that person at bay so they don't pursue anything. So they just leave it be. And sometimes we have to accept that another person has their own input into that situation. Just because you're angry about something doesn't mean that the other person doesn't have a right to their feelings on the subject. Even if they've pissed you off, there might have been something within themselves that felt threatened. And so they acted in a way, said something that was maybe inappropriate. And you have to sort all of that out. And sometimes it's a little messy, and you have to be able to grin and bear it. So I feel like these two signs can be inauthentic emotionally, and you really have to get your shit together when it comes to that. If I would say that the Pisces, of course, this is all based on the moon signs. It's very incomplete here, but somebody with a prominent Pisces could be affected, especially by trauma, and that person may have a lot of difficulty with their own, processing their emotions because they are very sensitive. They're actually a lot more sensitive than the moon in Libra person. Again, the moon in Libra person could have the sun in Pisces, could have the sun in Cancer, whatever, and they might be quite sensitive in other ways. So we're just looking at this from moon sign positions. And this is where clashes can form, because you can have the moon in Pisces person feeling sorry for themselves, feeling disempowered in life, and the moon in Libra person is more able to take things in stride. Even though they tend towards people pleasing, they can be more emotionally balanced because they're air, and air is detached. So, Libra is romantic, but it still can be detached. And that can certainly work to their benefit, because they can be people who deal with difficult things and are able to still function at a higher level. Whereas a moon and Pisces person can get bogged down in their emotions because they are a natural empath. So they're feeling other people's feelings. They might confuse it with their own. It can be a hot mess emotionally with the moon and Pisces person. But the moon in Pisces tends to feel like a victim. And so they can be kind of, I don't know about whining, but they might be, there's always some problem. There's always some kind of thing that they have to deal with, contend with, and this might eventually make the moon and Libra person pull their hair out, because they feel like that person isn't really committed to change. And it's important to note that for the person with the moon in Libra, to note that yes, I mean, sometimes the moon in Pisces person, in the worst case scenario, could be even somewhat of a covert narcissist, because they are, that's like their coping mechanism that they have learned, or their emotional need for sympathy if they have a harsh upbringing where they were a victim of abuse and they were never given that kind of loving kindness by an adult, or at least not consistently. They may be constantly seeking it out in other people, but the only way they can find to do that is by being this martyr, by being somebody who is always suffering, the long-suffering person, which can be a manipulation to get pity because the person confuses pity with love and respect. Okay, and that's where that is coming from, in my opinion. It's only my opinion. Now, if you're listening to this and you are the Moon and Pisces person, don't think for 1 minute that I'm saying that all Moon and Pisces people are like this. This is going to be the more dysfunctional variety. Even if you can identify with some of this, understand that knowledge is power, and these coping mechanisms existed for a reason. These are survival mechanisms. So they serve a purpose on a certain level, and nobody should ever feel ashamed that they have resorted to this, because this is how people cope with a lot of problems in their family of origin. They will do things to get their needs met. And, you have to have compassion for yourself at all times. So, in any case, in terms of the Moon and Libra person, this person may be quite superficial emotionally, because they're kind of like, can be psychologically or spiritually bypassing, where they just want the love and light bullshit in the world. They don't see that light. Of course, I'm not saying that there's something wrong with love and light, but that term love and light to me is just part of that spiritual bypassing to gloss over the more shadow elements in life, and what we're all about, what we came here to do. We didn't come here just to socialize and have nice little, you know, light-hearted conversations. Sometimes you have to have wrenching conversations with somebody that is meaningful to you. Conversations that feel like your heart is being ripped out. And the Moon and Pisces person is like perfectly capable of those conversations. That is the interesting thing about Pisces individuals, whether it's Moon, Sun, whatever, like that, with inner planets, is they might seem like they're fragile, but they've probably seen it all. And they are great at holding space for other people while they're going through a lot of stuff, because they have been there, done it, bought the t-shirt, and are, it's what they came here for. But the Moon in Pisces has to learn to become more detached, so that they are not taking on other people's energy, so that they are and that's what they can learn from the Moon and Libra person. So don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that this combination cannot survive, even if and you will be an official in conjunction, depending on the degree span between you. Don't ask me what that would be. Some astrologers, I think, believe in tight angles, but like 2, 3. But I've seen 5 or even 10. I think that it's more important to look at the signs involved and what they represent, and how they find common ground, and how they have to accommodate one another. I think that is much more the key here. And so it means that if you're falling in love, and you're falling hard in love, that you keep your wits about you, both of you, so that you're not, you're not a living, breathing Harlequin romance novel that is, too good to be true, because it's false. It's not that, that infatuation stage is temporary, and then you just have what I call the dirty socks in the middle of the floor moments in life where it's not glamorous. And, can you handle that? Can you handle that phase of the relationship? If what I said just made you recoil, it means that you're probably having a hard time incorporating the real life with your emotional and romantic nature. So you look to your moon sign. If your moon forms a hard angle to Neptune, square or opposition, or even a conjunction can be hard, I think sometimes. If your Venus, same, square, opposition, conjunction, you may have an unrealistic view of love, and you may choose the wrong partner. Why? I say more times than not because you're trying to love them into loving themselves. So they will tend to be problematic in some way, addictions, mental illness, and that can extend to not being able to keep a job, or, fighting with the boss, or walking off jobs, because the person gets overwhelmed easily and they just, you know, can't handle themselves emotionally. So all of these things can come into play, even if your moon is in Libra. But the person with the moon in Pisces, this is baked into you emotionally because of having that moon in Pisces. Some of these things are interchangeable to some degree in terms of relationships. So keep that in mind and make sure that you're with somebody that you're helping each other to grow. You're not dragging each other down. And that will determine, they'll be the ultimate determinant of whether or not the relationship is a good one. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care.